Our presentation for IST 233 with Professor Cobbs is on smartphones by Tyler Paul, Jan Kavana, Austin Grice, and myself, Jesus Vienna. Our introduction covers a brief summary about the mobile industry's transformation into a more complex technology. The technology has changed exponentially from when cell phones basically used to be all the same. The transformation of smartphones has made them integral to our classes, work, and class and social lives. Much like the computer industry, the mobile industry has gone from a simplistic idea to a digital complex ecosystem composed of different sizes, features, processors, and operating systems. We will be comparing 4 phones today that reflect the flagship devices of the 3 major operating systems, iOS, Windows, and Android. These phones are the Apple iPhone 5S, the Samsung Galaxy S5, the HTC One, and the Samsung Ativ SE. While these phones may seem alike, their different aspects and strengths and weaknesses differentiate them. So now we will talk about each phone's strength and weakness in particular. Each phone has aspects and features that put it above the rest, but then there are also faults that the consumer will have to balance. This will ultimately make the consumer decide which phone they want. The first phone is the iPhone 5S. It's the newest version of the model and simply put, an upgrade from the prior version. It has a 4-inch screen with a quick responsive camera and a more ergonomic design to help fit better in the palm. There's also a new feature such as the fingerprint scanner on the home button. This allows users to protect their security on their phones. With this new version of the iPhone comes better specs such as the A7 chip with the M7 coprocessor that allows for faster processing while using less battery. The major weakness of the iPhone is that it is an expensive phone, especially if you get it off contract. This is due to Apple's brand recognition. The camera's dual LED is also an issue when using third-party apps. The next phone is the Samsung Galaxy S5. The S5 is one of the powerhouses of the mobile industry because Samsung puts so much work into it. It runs Android and has an 8-core or octa-core processor, which allows the device to run multiple tasks and programs swiftly and fluidly while not sacrificing graphics. Additionally, Samsung puts so many features on their Galaxy line. A lot of these features are in their 13-megapixel camera, such as the virtual tour and shot and more features. Like Apple, Samsung put a fingerprint scanner on the home button, but they also put a health scanner on the back of the phone. The negatives of the S5 is that Samsung overshadows the Android operating system with their features. The HTC One is also an Android flagship device made by HTC. The best aspects of this phone are the speakers and the build of it, which has a sleek aluminum casing. The downside is that it is prone to fall out of a user's hand. The new model has great internal specs and a larger screen. Another great factor of this phone is that its storage can be expanded with a micro SD card up to 128 gigabytes. Additionally, Google throws in 50 gigabytes of online storage. A few negatives about the HTC One is that its screen has not seen major improvements from the prior version, and it only has a 4-megapixel rear-facing camera, which is not too great for today's standards. The last one we will talk about is the Samsung Ativ SE. This phone runs on Windows operating system. This OS is a newcomer and underdog, yet it still has a place at the top. There are features that aren't present in the phone that are present in other Samsung phones, such as the output to HDMI. Another negative about this phone, and Windows Phone in general, is the app market. However, this phone boasts a great 13-megapixel camera and great coverage. Along with a 2.3 quad-core processor, it also has the option of expanding storage up to 64 gigabytes. Perhaps the best feature on this phone is that it has an 89% sharper screen than most phones. We will now talk about features of the phone. Features are usually the deciding factor that consumers look at when they go purchase a device. Because there is such a big emphasis on features, we are giving it a 35% weight on the grading scale. As you can see on the slide, the sheet analyzes the cameras, apps, storage, price, and physical dimension of all 4 phones. The first one we'll talk about is the camera, because most people use their smartphone camera rather than a digital camera. Typically, rear-facing camera has a higher megapixel count, while the front-facing camera is improving in an industry. You can see that the Samsung devices have the more defined camera at 13 megapixels, while the iPhone and HTC One have 8 and 4 megapixels respectively. Any app stores. The app stores depend on the operating system, Windows, iOS, and Android, and each has a great market on their platforms. The app stores allow you to have social apps, games, and productivity apps such as Evernote and Word. The biggest market is the Android market, followed closely by the iOS market. The Windows app market is the newest, therefore it has a limited selection. However, most popular apps will show up on Windows. Storage. Storage is a huge aspect when it comes to choosing a phone, especially if you're the type to take a lot of photos, download a lot of movies and apps, and like to have a lot of music on your phone. Storage is what determines how much of those you can have. All these phones start at 16 gigabytes of internal storage and can be upgraded. The iPhone can be upgraded to 64 gigabytes, which is probably the best. However, of all these phones, iPhone is the only one that does not have expandable storage. This allows consumers to buy one or more micro SD cards and not be limited by the phone's internal storage. Cellular coverage was at one point the most important aspect of a cell phone, but now, because all these phones and most phones have 4G LTE, you will have very fast connections. It will depend on which service provider you have and the spread of their coverage. However, most major cities have 4G, so that is not much of an issue. Wireless performance is important because it determines the phone's wireless ability. This determines which device has the edge when it comes to pinging, downloading, and uploading. We went to Destiny Mall and conducted a first-hand test to compare the connectivity between the phones. Ping is measured in milliseconds, and upload-download speeds are measured in megabytes per second. As you see in the graph, the highest ping was the Samsung Ativ, followed by the HTC One and the iPhone 5S, and lastly the Samsung S5. However, for the upload and download speeds, Samsung had the highest, followed by HTC One, the Samsung Ativ, and the iPhone 5S respectively. The last feature we'll review is graphics. Graphics are important because it is what consumers see on the screen. We use Microsoft Fishbowl, an online service that allows you to observe the graphic performance of the device in frames per second. Graphic matters if you are a person who enjoys watching movies, photos, and playing games. As you can see in this graph, Samsung S5 has the best performance, which is a reflection of its octa-core processor. Then you see the iPhone 5S in second, followed by what seems like a tie between the Ativ and the HTC One. Essentially, you want to see faster graphics for a better phone. This slide is our grade slide. We put a lot of consideration into our grades. The highest emphasis was put on performance and features because they are what a user will be experiencing for the most part and what they will want. As far as in design and cost, they weren't as important because most phones are on contracts, are subsidized, and people care less about the size. Of the phone rather than more about the features. As you can see, the sheet shows the grades divided into the 4 sections: designs, performance, features, and cost. As you can see, features and performance have more subcategories within them to have a better definition of the grade. As you can see, the iPhone 5S had a 4.15, followed by the Samsung Ativ 3.9, followed by the Samsung Galaxy S5 at 3.95, and the HTC One 3.75. So our analysis has the iPhone 5S as a superior phone due to its sleek design, ease of use, friendly UI, app selection, and its performance. Of course, its brand recognition helps too. Other consumers can be attracted to the features of the other phones, such as expandable storage, lower prices, larger screens, and better resolutions. It comes down to personal preference of the operating system, Android, Windows, etc. Android, Windows, HTC, and Samsung are all show promise and are still competing in making the best phone, but for the time being, Apple's iPhone reigns supreme.